Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the lettering session. We're going to do a little something together. In the spirit of bar camp, we're sort of doing minimal planning and having a little fun with it, so some of it will be feedback from you and what you'd like to see. And that's something that I discovered from our friend Mark who just came. He reminded me that sometimes just watching people do the work is enough for learning. So some portion and near the end, we thought it would be fun for us to each do lettering in our style and just watch us ask questions as we go. Maybe that will be the same way to do something. So, so what would you like to do first? We had our cards out, right? So we've done that.
Yeah. Well, the cards, so I said maybe, because I had these cards, maybe you could start off a bit of lettering. Maybe it's good if you introduce a bit, because we're talking about something we did with Heather.
Yeah, so I did a session with Heather Martinez, and a few things I touched on were, I'm really fascinated by lettering that's very compressed. So it's very vertical and skinny. Sometimes it can be difficult to do that work. And then also stretch lettering that's really wide. And then the last thing was, I kind of like doing letters that fit inside other letters. So almost like a puzzle. So maybe I can use things. Claire has some very distinctive lettering that she does in her morning evening, in her Obonichi. So we can talk a little bit about that as well. So how many here are true beginners that are just starting sketchnoting? That would give us a good sense of where we are in the room. So we were debating how to balance both the advanced and the new students, so make sure that everyone gets something valuable from this. So I think would it be helpful to start with maybe single and two-line lettering as a beginning?
But what I found when I started, because it was somewhere in 2012 or so, is you start off trying all kinds of things, and then eventually you come up with your own lettering. And that's how people recognize you. Because if I see something Mike's written, then I don't even have to look, but I recognize it's Mike's handwriting. And you have to practice and try all kinds of things to find whatever fits you best. Yeah.
So maybe what I'll do is I'll sit at the machine here and show you a little bit of a basic thing, and then we'll go into something more advanced. Everyone can see it okay? So one of the things that I teach in the book is with sketchnoting, it's important to do something that's quick and also something you can come back and modify later. So I realized that there was a technique that I was using that I guess I developed or stole from someone that I heard do this, called single line and two-line lettering. So single line is like this, where you just, do single lines like so. The two-line lettering is this way, so you would take the same one and you would draw another line next to it, either on the inside or the outside. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And then you can come in and fill the edges in, like so. And then fill in the white spots. Sometimes I actually like leaving the little white spots because it gives a little bit of a human feel to it, right? To have little tidbits there. So I'm going to do one letter that's a little bit bigger because I realize that this is pretty small. So what it looks like is this. Do your single line and then you do your second line in parallel. Cap the ends like so, and then you fill it. And when you fill it in, you notice that you start to notice where the weird things are maybe in your letter form. So, as an example here on this M, it's got a little bit of a point, and maybe I don't want that, so I can square it up a little bit and put it in. I like to think of this method as building a framework for your letter that no one else knows existed, because they just see the final letter. They don't see the process. And then you'll see, so I'm looking at the letter and I'm thinking, oh, it should be a little bit thicker over on this side, and just making adjustments. I'll show you one more on this side. So the letter S, any kind of curved letter is always a challenge. So I'll show you some tricks that I do around this. So if I use two-line lettering in this way, and I just go around the outside, it's going to be a problem when I come in here. So what I found a good solution is to actually start on the inside When I get to right about in this neighborhood, then I start to cross to the middle, and then I come to the inside of the other one. So you actually end up with a point, sort of a narrow point here. I continue like I do normally. I cap the ends and I fill what I have. I think it's important that when you fill it, you can start to see the shape of the letter and see what's not right, because it's it's visually narrow. So then what I'll do is then I'll just come in and use that as a reference to fill in the rest of the letter wherever I need to. Now I'm going a little bit slower, but the nice thing is with this, if I do the S, I could come back a month later, and if I want to emphasize that letter, then I can come in. So maybe at speed, it will look something like this. Color in my spots and then look for flaws, fix those. Although lately, talking with Michael Clayton, I'm trying to be a little bit more loose and less precise about my lettering, so I'm letting things go a little more, so little bumps and things, I kind of like those things. So that would be like single line or 2-line lettering. I'll show you one more, and I'll just use the letter H. So this is called 3-line lettering. It works in the same way. So first you start with a single line, you put the second line in, but then you come back and you do a third line. What this does is give you a very bold letter form very quickly. And now you can really see how this is, I'm almost building just a template or a framework for my letter. So here you can see that you built this framework to very predictably add thickness without, so compared to doing, so if I had to do this freehand like this, it's a lot more precise. I have to be very more aware, like you have to practice a lot to be able to pull this off if you don't feel comfortable with this yet, right? It's much easier to sort of build out a bit by bit, and then I can just color it in like so. And then you end up with a really nice build letter. You can even push that even farther, so let's say it's the same H. By simply spreading the distance of the parallel lines. So now, look at that, I'm using much more distance on the stroke. And then I do the same thing here. Now you can see it's going to be quite a bold letter H. So all I did was move my parallel lines out, and yet it's a much bolder letter, so you can control that. So those are really the basics of that type of lettering. It's basically this secret trick that you can use that no one has to know when they see your work. And it's, again, it's nice that you can come back later and do this work. You don't have to do it in the morning. So now I'll show you some of the tricks around condensed lettering. So I love this condensed lettering. So let's do, since I'm sitting next to Claire. So a couple of things. I'm using, you'll notice, you may not be able to see, but I'm using a dot grid page. What I like about using a dot grid is it gives me a bit of a template to use. I have a sense of like where the bottom and the top of the letter should be. If I don't have a dot grid, sometimes I'll have a pencil and I'll stroke a line so I know that the top and the bottom, maybe even down the middle, so I know where the letter should fold. Do you have a pencil or even a colored pen? Right. I do this stuff. This is good. How about that? Okay. So I'll use the dot grid and show you. So if we do like a line here, and this comes in handy especially for condensed lettering because you're working in such a tight space. It's easy to misjudge. Like I always misjudge where I am on the page. So you can see those lines there. Now you don't have to necessarily write out the letters, but you could do that work first. So as an example, I would sort of, the way I would approach it is I would say I want the letter form to be, let's do some letter forms that are 2 grids wide. So it's a little bit compressed. And then I'll show you a letter form that's even 1 grid wide. So there's even another way to approach it. So I tend to start in the middle here. I want to get the stroke right, and then I put a little curve. And then another straight line and then a curve down. So I'm trying to be really consistent with these corner pieces here. And And then I can just come back in and I can do the same two-line that we just talked about. These can be straight lines because later on I can come and fix up or fill it in. And then when I look at it, I'll see like I want the inside of the corner to be a little bit rounded, so I'll just run around that corner and soften it a little bit. The next challenge will be this very narrow one, so I have much less room to work in, so it's sort of follow the same pattern. I'll start with the main stroke, so once I have the main stroke, I have a better feel for where the letter goes. And I'm going to make this more of the whole thing is going to be perfect. Because I have so little space here, I can't really put a flat spot. And now I can see like there's little bumps I'm noticing. Like here, this where the curve and the string are not matching. I kind of missed that. So what I might do is make a decision that I'm going this letter up, so I use my two-line approach and I clean it up. And I want to maintain the condensed nature, so I'm going to put the bold on the inside of this little arms in the C. And now I'll show you what it looks like when I do it. So maybe I'll start from this side. So having this, even a very basic structure, really helps. So now the challenge is I'm coming to a place where I have dot grid, but not my lines. So I have to really be focused on keeping the horizontal spacing right. I think the fun thing about this compressed is how tightly you can pack these letter forms and get these still working. But it's a challenge to figure out what the spacing is. If I'm critical about doing here, this space here is pretty narrow. This is a little bit too wide, so that would be something that I would work on.
This is where I sometimes wish I was going on my iPad.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Then you can just move it around.
Right. So
When you make a sketchnote, like, do you already think about how you're going to, so do you draw out how you're going to make it happen?
Sometimes it's in my head, roughly. Sometimes I'll lay some pencil on the page so I have a structure. Yeah. So it kind of varies. I think it can be very helpful, especially if you're beginning, to even with a pencil like this, to lay out the page in rough form, and then if you have a nice eraser, you just erase the pencil and nobody knows that you did it. And all you're really doing is sort of like in some of the sessions before in education where for new students, giving them a structure to work within can be helpful for you too. So if you have a structure that exists, you now can sort of work your magic around the structure as it is. Maybe what I can do is I'll do a little bit of extended lettering and then I'll let Claire do her lettering. So you can see what she does. So the same challenge for extended lettering. So since I have the dot grid, I'm going to draw a line more or less on the dots. But in this case, I'm going to keep the vertical. I'll move it here. I'll make the letters bigger. So you can also do this with another colored pen. So I could do it with this. In fact, maybe I'll do that over there. I'll challenge myself a bit here next time. All right, so a little bit closer. So the same kind of problem happens here, except now you're going, instead of vertically like this, you're going horizontally. So in this case, maybe what I'll show now is like if I was going to plan lettering to be a little more precise, I might get my pencil out and rough it out a little bit. So let's say I want to hang my C up here. So here's what I'm talking about spacing. Like if I have a pencil, I can sort of count 1, 2, 3, 4, it's about 5. It's sort of map out where my letter forms are going to go. And now, if I want to, I could even go further and actually draw lightly where the thickness of the letter should be. So again, it gives me a little bit of a structure when I do the letter form. So I'll do the first part of theirs. So now what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll draw these strokes in here since I know what the horizontal strokes are. So I sort of have a feeling for the stroke thickness more or less. Nice thing is if it's too wide or too thin, I can correct it later. So now then I'll come in and I'll put these off a little bit. See the C there is a little bit too short, so I've extended it. So now I'll come in and fill it so I can see what it looks like. I think sometimes when you don't fill it in, it can trick you. You can't always judge the thickness of it. So when you fill it with color, it gives you a little better sense of the weight of the letter to see if it's right. So here on the A, I'm going to put a little bit of a curve, so I'll just sort of work my way out into it. So the trick is you sort of start from the inside and work your way out so you can't go too far right away. That's another little tip. So now I can see my L is really thick and my C is not thick enough. So I can just slowly add a little bit, moving from the inside out. And then I'll put a little bit of a curve on the inside of the C. I want to make that L a little bit thicker. There we go. Now I'm going to try it a little more freehand in the magenta space. I won't do the spacing, I'll see how good I can do. The trick here is to make sure that the similar letter forms, like the A and the R, should be about the same width. So just that I'm using my eyeball to estimate based on these little dot grids to make sure they're really similar.
How do you decide how much space the eye should take up?
I look more to the negative space, so I look at the space on either side of it, and that tells me where it should be. And then also probably, if I were to look at this eye probably tells me how thick I can make the letter. So if I wanted to say hold it up a little bit, I can maybe get to maybe like that, because I want to maintain enough white space so it doesn't get broken down. The thing is, if I decide that that's what my white space should be, that also determines how I thicken up the A. So what I might do is actually thicken up on the inside of the A and the R, because I really like that space there. And then I can work from there. So I'll do the same thing on the A on the inside. Now I get a feeling that the R is actually a little wide, so again I'm going to put the thickener on the inside. Same thing with the R stroke. Inside of the E. I see I've got a little stair stepping on the top of the E because my hand is wiggling a little bit, so I'll clean that up a little bit. Now obviously, if you're in the middle of a Sketchnote, this is taking a long time. We're going really slow to show this. So the nice thing is you can do the really basic lettering and come back and fill it in later. So I always like any technique where I've got the ability to fix it later, because I can just leave it for later and come back to it. Now, if I were to criticize the lettering that I'm doing, it's interesting that this one started out pretty wide, and you can see it progressively getting narrower. So I'll draw the little pink. Notice how much smaller the A got. I doesn't really count because it's just one stroke, so that's fine. Notice now the R is getting wider, and then the E. So there's a little inconsistency between them, but again, if you're trying to get something that's organic and a human made it, this isn't typography, right? I'm not typing it I'm not typing on a keyboard and making something up. So in some ways, I like that. So the last thing I'll show before I turn it over to Claire is I like to snuggle little letters together, and I'm trying to imagine how I might do it with Claire's name. So I might just stay with sort of the extended letter. So I'll start with that. I look for letters like L. There's a few other letter forms. So here, what I might do is I want to use you notice how this is a bit of dead space here? It helps you see but it's just a little bit of dead space. I feel like I want to do something and I want to make a little flower here or something. Right? Fill that space with something. Well, one thing you could do is you could snuggle up letter form in here. So what if I started the A here, and then have it stacked like this? So now these two pieces almost fit together, and you can start looking for combinations. I think in Claire's name there's not really lots of options. But something you could do, something I do sometimes, you'll notice this is, I might make the E a little bit smaller, let's say, if I can pull it off and make it thick enough. And then maybe I'll put a little line under it, just to do something different. The other thing that's interesting about this is, by making this smaller, you're actually using less horizontal space. So this can be a trick, like let's say the page ended right there, and you knew that was coming, and oh crap, I'm not going to fit that E in there. I can actually make the E smaller and put the little mark here and make it use less space. I'm trying to think of common things that I'll do. L's are really well suited for this. It can work with, you do a small C in there. Of course, I could fit in here. Almost any square letter form. I'm trying to think if there's another one. Something called kerning is interesting, where L and Y often go nearby each other. You could actually use the space here for the Y. Really tighten this up. So you're really, getting a nice tight space in this area by just sliding the Y over. Now this is going to be really tight. That's called kerning. Typographers sort of obsess about this kerning stuff in letter forms, getting it right and getting it balanced. And the funny thing about kerning is you could be technically right but visually wrong. So you could have exactly the same space between each of the letter forms, but it will look wrong. So by actually visually adjusting, you can make it feel better to the eye than even if you're technically right with the note. I'll even use this little trick here in the middle of a sentence. So if let's say the page ends there, and I have to put the word home in here. How would I do that? I might do, well, if I make this letter really small, it's going to be a large letter form, then maybe I can do the E the same way. And then that opens up opportunities, like maybe a chimney on a house or something like that. So I'm always looking at the negative spaces and trying to find what can I do with that negative space. Is there something interesting I can do in there that maybe I'm not thinking about? Right, so then now we have this fun little thing. All right. So there's some little bits.
Mike?
Yes.
The word lettering, would you put the E on the L or the E under the T, like you have on a T-shirt?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because, yeah.
I could do this way. Here's another one that I could do. You can extend the stroke and do a T like so. And now, look, so each one, as I'm going, I'm looking for space. Like, oh, that's really interesting space. What if the E was there? Now, I might not extend the R because that might be strange, but maybe I could. And it's not really giving me an option. So we can do something like that. You can also mix upper and lowercase. So what if I wanted to do? Thinking here, you can even do like this. So it's a little bit quirky and unusual. Any other questions before we go to?
Can you try the end again?
We can see the extended down like so, or?
Yeah, like the normal. Yeah.
So it would start with the letters like so. Now notice what happened here. If you can see, here is wider than here, just the nature of the way that I do it. So what I immediately think is, if I'm going to add another stroke, I'll add this one on the inside because I want to balance it. But on this one, maybe I would start on the outside and work my way in. Now I still have this stroke. So I'm trying to make these 2 points similar to each other. So by the placement of the line where you're thickening it, you can actually rebalance the letter form. And then you can play around with things like now you're starting to do logo design. One more question. Any more questions?
Thank you.
All right, I've taken up too much time, so I'm not clearing it.
I was telling Mike that I started off with mind mapping. And I don't know whether you know the layout of mind mapping, but usually you have the topic in the center, and then you go from the top right, and you go all around to the top left. So there's a system. And so I was mind mapping a lot, and then you have to think about coloring. I really like colors. And then at a certain moment after I read Mike's book, I started adding pictures, and that's how I reverted to Sketchnote. But very often my Sketchnotes the mind map setting. So if you this morning, so Katerina, then this is the topic, and we started out here, and then I move up to the left. So that's my layout. Yeah. Then it's quite interesting because I never do anything in black. I really love small. The smaller the better. So I would go to conferences, and I would easily Sketchnote a keynote in small lettering, and then I'd give, maybe I'd need 2 or 3 of these, but then I'd give them to, I'd take pictures quickly, and then I'd give them to whoever it was that was speaking, and they always enjoyed it. But I really like small. The moment I'd have to do anything like Caroline does in this huge pages, I'd be lost. I wouldn't be able to do that. Then I also usually use dot paper, but I'm not a very patient person, so I don't really want to take too much time. I mean, sometimes I'll sketch a little bit in pencil, but then I'm not patient enough, so then I start erasing it, and then it smudges, and then I get all upset with myself, tell myself off. I really like so my typical lettering, obviously, started like that. Then I read Mike's book, but Mike's letters are all black. I love them, but the double and the 3 lines wasn't it for me because I don't want to fill it in with black. So obviously I reverted to doing this, but as Mike just pointed out, I can never do it and fill it in to make it even just right. So this frustrated me, because even though I'm not patient, I am a perfectionist. Then I'm sure all of you do it. You don't only look at Mike's, but you look on Instagram and you Google hand lettering. And these days there are more than enough books that you can look at. So I watched lots of video on YouTube, and I watched a lot of people hand lettering. And I saw someone who did things like this. I tell myself I like quirky bends and imperfections. And then what I always have with me is my coloring pencils. And then I would color it in. And then finish it off like so. But actually so I do morning, evening, and I do my today's doodle, which is this. And then I do it on my computer into work. So it also has a time span. So so if I have big lettering like this, it takes far too much time for me getting in, being able to find a spot, sitting down, doing it, and then being ready before I go out again. So that's why I converted, because I also like fine. So this thick is actually far too thick for me.
So would you say you do like 0.38?
I prefer 0.05.
Okay.
Yeah. But then you don't have that many 0.05, and sometimes if you have them, then you do it very easily. So I'll also do 0.1. But actually, I have
up to 0.05.
0.05. Yeah. If I have this, I don't know if you can see. This is my favorite pen, which is empty now as a green. This is a Sailor 1911, which is Japanese, and the Japanese do the finest nibs. But then I usually write upside down. And then, let's see if I can get some, I don't know where to get, oh yeah, I can get some, this is annoying, but you get the drift, right? That's really very fun. That's what I really like. And you can put these lines in here with the back of my nib. So I do it off of that. Then I also, in the beginning I try to vary a lot. But as soon as you start varying and you don't always have print paper, then what you just notice that you go closer to each other. You have lettering and then it's not straight. Or I'd write something like morning. And I've noticed myself doing this. Yeah, somehow I always go up. I never really go down.
Maybe it gets
skinny. And then it gets too skinny. So it's a lot. What I've learned to do is that usually when I look at a piece of paper, I try to picture it before I've actually drawn it. And that's really hard if you're sketchnoting someone's keynote or someone's workshop, because you actually never know how long it's going to take them and when they're going to tell the really important stuff. So sometimes what you notice is that you start small and then you start writing a bit bigger so that you can fill the whole page. What I also like doing, but I don't have I like doing things like this. So if I write mornings, so morning is always yellow. I'll write morning. And when I've done that, I'll either color it in if I do want it to be a bit thicker, and what I'll sometimes also do is this. brush lettering going down should be thicker than going up. I somehow can't really get the hang of that. Those of you who can use actual brushes, I admire you. And then all you have to do, obviously, is first wait for it to dry. And sometimes I'll do something like this. And what's really nice is if I do a Sketchnote at my work, people don't really often ask me what I'm doing because they sometimes think it's strange. But when I'm doing it in the train, I actually, I'm asked very often, what are you doing? Or people make a remark about, oh, you're cute, you still have pencils, or something like that. And then you have really nice conversations. And then once I've done this, I color it in, obviously. And my morning usually has a sun, and my evening usually has a star. So what, I got distracted here. What I wanted to show you, what I like is a bit like what you were saying, Mike, in the combining letters. Evening's always upside down. So I'll do something like this.
Right on top of it.
On top of it. And then I'll have some here. And it works a bit better if obviously the yellow is a bit lighter, like if you use a felt tip pen or something like that. So with pencil, the effect isn't as nice as if you have a fine liner or felt tip pen or something like that. Then what I also like to do is when you're sketchnoting, then obviously I don't use this lettering, I don't use this lettering because it's far too time consuming, but sometimes you do want to have a sense of which word is the important word in the story. So I thought I'd just show you this. This is what I did of Michaela's workshop. And I tried to order it and write in different letter widths. And I like the feel, not just because I don't think I'm very good at it, but I like the fact that it looks a bit natural and not too clean. So as soon as I letter on my iPad, I notice that I'm never erasing things because they seem much straighter. So I like the fact that it's not perfect. And then this little man is my little man. I honestly think I can't draw, but my man can do a lot of things and still have a lot of expression with only the mouth because I have no idea how to draw eyes. So it's just the mouth. And at a certain moment I started drawing the elbow and the knees. That was just for me to know how long they should be, but then I noticed that that's very easy to make it a bit quirky and a bit funny. What I started doing that also has a bit to do with what you said, so I'll just stick to the morning. If I don't have that much space, I'll usually start with the N, because there's the same number of letters in front of the N as behind. And what I've also started doing is I use G's like this, because if I run out of space, I can also make the G like that. So then I can kind of move it a bit, and that way it becomes, and then the evening is also easy, because I can do things like that and fill up the space like you were saying. I don't know.
I'm not sure lettering with the Can you show a little more detail on the letter?
Yeah, am I going to change
Fixed
it?
strokes and
Yeah.
horizontal.
The fixed strokes are very easy. Somehow I also prefer my end to be round and not straight. So I'll do this. I'll tell you also, I'll also say why I like this lettering, because I was forever struggling with the R. I don't know about you guys, but I think the R, the S, and the K, they're hell. And this way, actually, all you have to do is this, and you don't have to think about, you know, I never know how much to round at the bottom and where to go down. So that's also why this one is so easy. I pretend I don't mind too much if the spacing isn't even. But then I'm just saying it's because I don't have much time. Then I just color it in. And sometimes I'll do the G like this. And color it in. Letters like A, you can do them two ways. I usually do it like this, but you could also do it so. They're both possible, obviously, the V is the other way around. I also like doing things like this, so spacing it very wide. And if I'm drawing on a dot grid like Mike was, then I would also count. Then I'd also count the number of squares. And I also like doing things like this. So using different types of lettering. And then it's always a bit of a pity that there are two ends. I like playing around with letters, but if I'd sketch, then I wouldn't do this, because that's far too distracting. If you really want, I'd say most of the letters you use are the same kind of letters. So in this case, it would be this. This is my actual handwriting. So you don't want to distract too much, but you do want to, you know, have attention for the important stuff. So that's, and when I did a master a couple of years ago, I sketched all my the books and all the articles I read. And that's why I like color so much. If I made one sketch note, and I made them big then, and if I made one sketch note on a certain topic and I read different kinds of articles, then what I would do is I'd already put the quotes that I thought I would want to use in my paper in the same letter in the same color as the topic that it was the author. So that way I could always quickly see which bits belong together. But that's also, I think sometimes why people who don't sketchnote don't really understand what we're doing, because very often what we write down is how we've heard it and we know the layout. So when we see it, we recognize things, and that way we remember what it is that we read. Whereas if someone hasn't written it themselves, then they might not. People see my notes when I was studying. some people get completely confused because of all the letters, and for me it's logical. So I use a lot of colors.
Do we want to have them do anything with our, there's 3 questions for Claire, if anyone has questions.
That's very clear.
Yeah.
Answer the other question.
Yeah.
I have why upside down is harmony.
Because it's even finer. Yeah, so I have the extra fine on a Japanese pen is finer than an extra fine on a Disney, for example. And if you turn it around, it's extra
So
fine.
we're really tagging it on the back of the pen.
Yeah. And Sailor, they also have a pen. I don't know if you've seen that, but it has a nib like this. And then you can write on the back, and then it's very broad, and if you turn it around, it takes getting used to. Then you write with what's the back of the nib, and then it's extremely fine. And it's very nice for adding details. I never use the thick. I can't do big. I can do it.
Would you prefer to use the extra fine?
I prefer extra fine and as small as possible.
I think the big advantage of those really fine lines is they dry quickly, so you typically don't smear them.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's so comfortable.
Yeah. And I use a permanent ink, the Mont Blanc permanent ink, because then you can color over it. Once it's dry, you can even throw water on it. Yeah. So, yeah.
What time do we have till?
I think we still have 10 minutes. What we said was maybe if we have a word, you write it, I write it, and they write it on their cards, so we can see the differences.
Yeah. That sounds good. So, do we want to?
If you guys, do we want to?
Do you want to have them pick a word or us pick a word? Maybe we can pick a word.
That's the best word. Mike just came up with the best word.
Coffee.
I would think coffee.
So have a little fun with maybe some of the things you've learned, mixing and matching, maybe integrating a little drawing of a coffee cup or something else, a bean, and then we'll leave the camera up and we'll have a little time remaining. Yeah, on these little guys. So many of them have a grid on the back, so you have some structure. Or you could use the green side, depends on what you like. And then we'll have as many times as we have, we can come up and show it on the camera.
With the word coffee.
With the word coffee, yeah. Images are okay too.
Yeah.
One more minute.